We're talking with Deb Shafto. She is running for Houston City Council at large position number 4. We're also speaking with Don Cook. He is running for Houston City Council position number 1. What can you do on City Council about city poverty?
Well, there are many things that the city can and cannot directly do. Insofar as we can directly control this issue, we certainly should. But like many issues, the city also, I think, has an additional responsibility if it can't directly control everything about the issue. And Deb will have some other thoughts about this, I know. We need to inform the public, talk about this frankly, promote discussion. If this is under the auspices of the state or the federal government, well, we already do lobbying with these entities regarding things that are to the advantage of the city. And taking care of the people in the city, I think, is to the advantage of the city. And finally, we can also pass resolutions, let the world know what we as a city think needs to be done to help with all kinds of problems.
What campaign position do you have that is a little weak, that might need to be reevaluated?
I want to say
that might run into problems.
If I'm coming across as an arrogant know-it-all, I apologize, because I mean, I may be arrogant, but I'm certainly not a know-it-all. We're talking perhaps fairly glibly about issues that will have to be determined by trial and error. Mm-hmm. We'll have to see what works and what doesn't. And in a real democracy, you can take, I want to say, almost an experimental approach, I think, to things. You say, well, if this isn't working, okay, that was a mistake. We'll back up and try something else. I certainly don't know all the answers, and I'm probably being glib at sometimes just to try to gloss over the areas where I don't know what to say.
A lot of these programs are going to cost some money. We're going to have to find money somewhere in the budget, which is already facing a deficit. We already have a budget shortfall in Houston. Where can we find money to not only cover the shortfall, but also to implement some of these new programs?
Well, one of the first things that I will do is take a very, very close look at the budget to see what can, if anything, be cut. I think that there are places, I mean, we're talking about community gardens practically for pennies compared to thousands that other programs cost.
I don't understand the expense of community gardens. I've heard that such and such a garden here cost, I don't know, $100,000 or $500,000 or something like that. And these are very, well, I think there was some architecture involved or something at some point, some landscaping. I don't know. But we don't, I mean, for community gardens, for these sorts of things, when you ask that question off the community gardens that we were talking about, I don't see a lot of money that's required to grow beans and potatoes. People can bring these things too. The things we eat are also the things that the food sprouts from. Seed corn, peas, things like that. I mean, these.
A lot of these gardens could be self-sufficient, and they wouldn't be very expensive, and there'd be a lot of benefits.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, and Deb was talking about stressing the community, I guess you'd say, in community gardens, and that's true. That's great. When we get away from means of transportation that isolate us from each other, I think I was thinking this a while ago too. When we're not riding around isolated in automobiles so much, and we're confined perhaps to most of the time to more limited geographic areas, a sense of community will inevitably have to return to us. You were asking about the budget. There are, it's true, only limited sources of income that are available to cities. What is it, the sales tax and property tax and maybe some other things I don't know about, right? Well, hopefully we can be instrumental in getting out. We talk about being out of the box all the time, but interacting with the world, with the outside the city. perhaps there are some programs, national programs, federal programs, state programs, that would benefit the city, and that putting that money in the city would benefit the country. That's another source of revenue we should look at.
So making sure we get our share of the federal stimulus.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's back off some from the privatization of utilities and things. 2 cities in Texas give rebates to people who put up, and they're pretty substantial rebates, to people who put up solar panels, or and it could even be applied to people putting in small electricity generating windmills, although I don't know that they're actually doing that. And those areas where that's done, they don't have privatized energy company. They have a city-run energy company, so that the city saves money by promoting what we generally refer to as, perhaps inaccurately, as renewable energy sources in the population.
So you're saying that the city could save money by looking into some of these alternative forms of energy?
If we've handed something over to a for-profit company, I think we should look very closely and see if it's really to our advantage to do that. I've perhaps joked a couple of times that the only advantage I've been able to think of where privatization might be good would be to have crime labs privatized, so that there would be there would be no
problems. We're not even going there.
Well,
today.
there would be no conflict of interest, in that particular situation. That would be the advantage of having bringing in an outside privatized source. But
all right, caller, you're on the air. What's your question or your comment?
Yes, sir. Could you explain your understanding of Homeland Security Section 287G?
Are you referring to Houston being, what is it, a sanctuary city?
Yes,
okay.
probably that.
Okay.
I think it's mainly
That's a good
training.
question.
I think it's mainly training HPD to do the job of the Immigration Customs Enforcement Service. Isn't that what 287G
How do you
is
feel
about?
about that? Because this has been getting a lot of play, and Houston is what some people would call a sanctuary city, meaning that HPD doesn't go out of its way to enforce the immigration code.
Humans have always roamed freely about the earth. We talk about being, well, and I'm for a free earth, I'll just say that.
Well, do you agree with Bill White when he went ahead and allowed the city jail to run the immigration records of people that had already been detained? Do you think that's a good idea?
Well,
I mean, they're already suspected of a crime. They're already in detention. We might as well see if they're here legally.
I am a retired parole officer, and I do feel that if somebody's running from the law, from the major perpetrator from another country, I would hope that we would identify them and take appropriate action, because in an imperfect world we have created quite a few imperfect people.
Well, turning now to the larger issue of crime. I mean, that crime is one of the big things that city government traditionally focuses on. What is your view of how the police department should act, and what's your crime plank, if you will, in your platform?
Well,
It should behave legally at all times.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely, and
It
I'm
should
afraid
absolutely
this
behave
taser
legally
business
at all
has gotten
times.
quite out of hand.
Tasers.
Tasers have gotten quite out of hand.
Hold police officers accountable when something happens. Don't say that they died of a heart attack if they were tasered 147 times before they had that heart attack.
I mean, and the issue of police brutality is a very real one in Houston, in case viewers are unaware of the history. I mean, there is a long, unfortunate history of excessive police force.
The introduction of tasers was supposedly with the hope of curbing the number of deaths.
I think it's increased, though.
But I think it has, yes. It's obviously something has gone wrong. The basic answer to crime, though, is to raise better humans. When we have a society, I'm serious. When
Absolutely.
when in the city we're raising people, we're not in terms of, I think, like after-school programs is just too dull a name for it, but interacting with people as they're growing up, raising them right.
Crime is a bigger problem than can just be fixed by the police force.